inspired by comic books. Back in ancient Greece, a muse was a spirit that inspires artists. The Greeks had a muse for poetry, a muse for drama, a muse for music. This is my muse. She resembles Lois Lane, Superman's significant other. That's because comic books were my first artistic inspiration. Back in the suburbs in the 1950s, no kid I knew had ever seen an art museum. I sure hadn't, but every kid owned a stack of comics. Some kids just read the comics. I read them too, but I also looked at the pictures. I mean, really looked. The panels in a comic book show you how to draw because the characters are linear. You can see the lines. The first characters I drew were animals, ducks, dogs, and rabbits. See, comic book animals are made with ovals and circles. You put them together and you get a character. When I got a little older, I saw Steve Reeves in the movie Hercules, a primitive muscle man who clobbered monsters and rescued women in mammoth skin bikinis. Yeah, that's what I wanted to be. But, then as now, American suburbs lack monsters, villains, and distressed heroines. In my neighborhood, not one adventure happened. So, I created a comic book hero to inject a little adventure in my life. I called my primitive savage Zodiac the Zapper. A primitive muscle man was the total opposite of my skinny intellectual self, a yin-yang attraction, I suppose. My imagination created a fantasy persona of the hero I wanted to be, like Carl Jung talks about in his theory of archetypes. At least, I think he talks about that. If he doesn't, he should. Anyway, my comic book superhero bashed the beasts, but he could never win the heart of Baba Ba Boom, my heroine, a situation which reflected my personal frustration. Throughout high school, I dated some girls, but never found a romantic heartthrob. However, there's a bright side to that dilemma. What would I have done if I had found a heroine? Fallen in love? I wasn't ready to marry, and back in the 1960s, all girls thought love and marriage went together like a horse and carriage. What a dumb song. Who's supposed to be the horse? That's what I want to know. I bet I can guess. As I got older, school absorbed my free time. For 10 years, I didn't look at a comic book. I thought they had gone the way of other childhood amusements. But I wanted to make art and faced a problem. How to fill a white canvas. Still lifes, nudes, and landscapes were fine as learning techniques, but now I wanted more than that. Something different. Then one evening in the early 1970s, a rack of comic books in a convenience store caught my eye. On one gaudy cover, a full moon transformed a hero into a werewolf. For a quarter, I purchased that artwork and decided to paint in a comic book style. After all, hadn't comics been the reason I got interested in art in the first place? Each month, I purchased 1 or 2 comic books looking for ideas. Hey, why not divide the canvas into rectangles, like a comic book page? I did, but then I had to fill those panels. Most comic books were full of heroes and monsters. Well, why not paint Zodiac? Not the fuzzy-faced Neanderthal I'd created as a kid, but a more abstract, more colorful hero. Then, of course, I could paint Baba Ba Boom in a similar style. And don't forget the monster. Did he symbolize turmoil out there in the world or personal turmoil within? Maybe a little of both. I put the pieces together and presto, I had a painting that was a bit different, maybe even original. Was I a real artist? I wasn't sure. Best to forget silly questions and start another painting.